Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back once again to the League of Legends Collegiate Championship presented by State Farm. We got another match for the round of 32, our middle match of the day, as University of Toronto Esports will be taking on the Boise State Broncos in this one. I know we're really excited to get this game underway. University of Toronto Esports, I know they highlighted in that interview, if you caught it pre-match while we were rolling the timer, we had Shillingwalk sit down with their squad. They mentioned that University of Western Ontario, that is one of their rivals. We saw them pick up the 2-0 earlier today. And I'd say contested fashion, some credit over to Team RPI, who put their best foot forward, pushed them to their limits, but was not enough to take the game off them, as UWO still get 2-0 on the scoreboard. Gonna have to see if University of Toronto can do the same today, as our friends up north are looking to stay dominant. I'm joined by Dylan Kleinven and TJ Command Attack Bjorklund, my friends up from the Midwest, as well as we're going to be trying to take you through all the action in this series. Guys, I'm going to start with Dylan. We're going to get right into this with Boise State. What are you expecting out of this squad for this match, Dylan?
Yeah, so just a little update for the viewers in case they aren't aware. Boise State's jungler was unable to participate in this tournament, so they've had to role swap a couple players around to make things fit. Their sub, Red Hot, will be playing in the mid lane, which is fine because he's a mid laner. But here's where things get interesting. AD Carry, who's a player on their team, not their AD Carry, will be playing in the top lane for them, and that is not his normal role. And Ascent, their traditional, mid laner, the Rumble aficionado of the CLOL space, is going to be playing in the jungle. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he adapts, and we were kind of talking about this before the show went live. It could be worse, because with the meta shifts and things like that, you can get away with picking some traditional mid laners in the jungle, like Diana, like his Pocket Rumble that he always plays. It's going to be interesting to see how he makes that adaptation to the jungle, how comfortable he is in that role, because thrown for a little bit of a wild card, just a few days before the series starts. So hopefully Boise has had some time to, recoup.
Yeah, gonna have to see if Boise State can recoup and reorganize that roster. I know Ascent, kind of a king memer that we have on the Twitter sphere as well. Big fan of all the content he was able to pump out for the rest of his program. As Command Attack, kind of want your thoughts on Boise State as well. While we might get into rolling some highlights of how they got here exactly. What are your thoughts on this team going into today's matchup?
I think Boise State's one of those teams where they're kind of slept on a little bit, in that they're not Maryville, they're not Harrisburg, but they still do offer good scholarships. They have some pretty good players, so it's important to recognize that they can come out with some fire. It's interesting today and kind of unfortunate that their player isn't able to play, so I'm wondering how that might affect morale or gameplay in general. But as you can see in this clip, we have Ascent on Rumble. It's going to have to be banned, or if not, it might be a little questionable by the enemy team. I wonder if the player that is subbed out, if he was their shot caller, and how does that affect the way they're communicating the plays they're going for? Are they more confident, less confident, etc.? Overall, relatively solid team, and I think that it's on the enemy team to punish them now that they have their new players in.
Yeah, I think it's very appropriate that we were talking about Rumble in the first highlight clip that's rolling. We didn't know it was going to be a quad from Ascent on Rumble, but we're also not surprised knowing his proficiency with that champion, as Boise State had a rather dominant split in their partner conference to get here, and now we're going to have to see how they're going to be tested by University of Toronto, who a team that has been one of the more storied club teams that we've had, much like UWO. A lot of good players have come out of there historically. Names like JJ, the support for Dignitas Academy, names like Invert, also the coach of that squad as well. And even Airy, who has seen some success competing in some of the minor regions as a professional AD carry as well. Toronto, they're looking to carry that legacy with them and looking to get off to a good start in the round of 32 against Boise State. And TJ, I know that you took some time to go through this roster a little bit more thoroughly. What were your initial thoughts on them?
I think that their roster is a little bit of a unique one. In that all of their players are able to play a bunch of standard stuff. So I'm not really concerned about the types of champions that are played today. I'm just wondering how they'll gel together, because 5 champions that are strong in meta may not be the best 5 champions to play cohesively as a unit. So I'm just curious as to see what type of meta they choose to pursue, especially with some of the changes in the Nocturne, the Rumble, etc.
Yeah, and kind of speaking a little bit more about their roster, in terms of ranks, this is the closest match that we featured on the Academy stream so far. These teams are practically even in terms of their like average solo queue ratings, things like that. Obviously, that's not accounting for the lane swaps, and you could adjust up or down based on that. But just on paper, these teams are very even. Stylistically, they do have a bit of a contrast where Boise State, not really like your traditional like sort of organized like Maryville style like well drilled collegiate team. They're a bit more free flowing. Toronto, a bit of a similar fashion. Chilling Walk, when he sat down with them, they pretty much said, we don't get to scrim as much as other collegiate teams. It kind of leads to them having like a little bit of like sloppy gameplay, but at the end of the day, it's like organized chaos almost with Toronto. They like to make things bloody in their games. They like to get things going. I mean, we see in this clip that's rolling right now, triple kill for Psycho Mode down to the bot lane at probably like 3.5 minutes. That is not rare in Toronto games. These games will be bloody. There will be a lot of fighting, and it's going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah, especially with a couple members of Boise State off-rolled, I'm expecting a bit of a slugfest and also a chance for the club squad of Toronto to take it to the varsity squad of Boise State. Boise State, a huge investment in their esports program across the board with getting full rides to people that are going to play in the various games. Also, a huge investment in their broadcast talent as well. If you go over to the Upsurge Esports stream, you'll see one of their own, Jolly, that's joined us for the broadcast this week, bringing her expertise to the collegiate scene as well. But it's definitely something that we kind of expect with the role swaps for Boise State, that Toronto's coming in a little bit favored is my expectation. Command Attacks, is that something that you'd agree with going into this match?
I would say it's pretty even, but probably favored because of the role swaps. So that's where I think the advantage starts to come in. At the end of the day, when you start to look at teams that are relatively close in skill, maybe it's a 55-45, maybe it's a 60-40, but like that just depends on the day at that point. That's not one of those 80-20s where it's like this person is going to win.
Yeah, I know that as the tournament goes on, we're expecting more close matches, but it's nice that we get something that we expect to be somewhat of a close match in this first best of three, as Toronto and Boise State are looking to go toe-to-toe pretty soon. But also, we have a little bit more time until the draft before we throw it over to our wonderful casters. And Dylan, I'm kind of curious. You mentioned the fact that Ascent moving to the jungle, Rumble's in the meta, something that we do not expect him to be able to get his hands on, but also Morgana, Diana, and Lilia, more AP picks that every once in a while they are played mid, something that Ascent may have played in his past as well. But how difficult is it, coming from the jungle perspective yourself, stepping into that role as a mid laner now turned jungler for this tournament?
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the system that they had in place with their previous jungler, because I'm assuming that he was able to at least work with their jungler over the past couple of days, like, hey, like, what clear should I go for? Like some champion specific questions, how am I supposed to clear on X champion versus Y champion? Like, what timers should I be looking at that are important? But a lot of jungle is just theoretical game knowledge. And if you are an intelligent player, you should be able to understand those fundamentals coming from any role, because, it's things that laners are already aware of. Like, a mid laner at this level should know, like, relatively what time current meta junglers clear at, right? You'd be able to know that Udyr hits like 3:15 scuttle timer with all camps cleared. Hecarim, depending on if he gets a leash, can also hit that timer. Things like that I'm sure have already been communicated with him. And for me, if he already has the mechanics of these, flexible champions down, and he kind of already has that knowledge from just playing the game at such a high level, he should be okay. Like, the hardest thing at that point is just like knowing how to move around the map and what plays to go for. But if his laners are there to help compensate for that, and they can kind of pull him around the map and do whatever, it should be okay for Boise.
Right, and so with that, I have talked with Sent a little bit, and I know he's willing to play any champion. So even though we're harping on stuff like Nocturne, Rumble, etc., I'm wondering if he's going to have his own unique jungle pick. Like, does he just play Nidalee jungle randomly or something like that? I also know he's very willing to like play the other roles and that kind of stuff as well, based on in-houses, tryouts, all that kind of stuff. So this is not something where it's like, oh, they just have a role swap, the game is over.
Mm-hmm. Yet a very talented player in his own right. And while I'm kind of bummed that we don't get to see the Rumble mid and the Rise we saw in the highlights that he has been performing on throughout the season, I'm excited to see what he's able to do in this role and in the jungle. And man, what a statement that would be from Ascent and Boise State if they were able to take these games with the role swap. We're just going to have to see if that's going to be the case or if Toronto has different plans as the draft is ready to go. We got Mad Magical and Shilling Walk for this series. Guys, take us through it.
Thank you so much for that analyst. That's Cubby and Co, as I have dubbed them. I'm excited to be able to jump back in for more collegiate action here today with you, Will. We have an exciting one to start off. They already really were doing a great job of hyping it up. University of Toronto versus Boise State University with all the role swaps going on. At first, when I went into the state, I thought I had a clear image of what was going to happen. Now, it's all up in the air.
I mean, I thought so too, Alex. I'm kind of with you on the same boat. I thought we had a clear kind of game plan for both these teams, but we talk about Boise. The desk already mentioned it, not having their main starting jungler on deck means that they're going to have to go for role swaps.
Right.
I just interviewed U of T, and these are the boys who are also down a role swap. They're the ones who've been role swapping when it comes to their game plan. So if you look at all these matches today, we saw a lot of standard games from yesterday and this first match earlier on with University of Western Ontario taking the win. This is probably the game where I'm going to be expecting the most spice, Alex. If we want to add Sriracha, we want to add some gochujang in, this is probably the game that I'm going to take some heat.
And you know me, I love my spice. I love people doing weird things and not really caring what's going on. They just do whatever they want. But I kind of want to talk about Toronto a little bit before we dive into things. Because Toronto is just an organization, a university that we used to see a lot back in the days when Ari, JJ, Invert were a part of the roster. And now to see them succeeding with this group of friends that have been able to make this team come together and now try to see if they can succeed and be this wild card, this dark horse in the collegiate scene is a great change of pace and a great growth that this entire university has been able to have.
Yeah, it's a little crazy, man. I remember just a couple of years ago when we were both covering some collegiate. When I was coaching in collegiate, University of Toronto was a big team that you have to face against. But with them kind of falling to the wayside, and also with these new players, these young players coming in, I spoke to them a little bit about it. You know, they're all A-okay. They understand that they have to kind of represent Toronto. Toronto's kind of like a big hub of esports, knowing that they have the Call of Duty scene up there too with the Toronto Ultras. But these guys are the ones who are trying to make sure they can kind of uphold that, and they want to make sure they represent Canada at its best, because the number one rival that they told me is Western Ontario, which is the other Canadian team that's making headway.
Well, we're going to see how they're going to be able to deal with everything as we jump into draft, because they had to beat Boise State first. Getting all these role swaps, you can even see at the bottom right there, Carry in the top lane as opposed to being in jungle, Ascent jungle instead of being mid lane, Red Hot's mid lane instead of top lane. Just all this wildness coming in from them, but still we see the Rumble ban coming in immediately from Toronto. Gangplank going to be the first ban from Boise. That one's a bit of a surprise to me to see this early on.
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised to see that going in, but of course, they're doing their research. For University of Toronto, that's already said it. Ban away that Rumble. Ban away that Diana. That champion's been running rampant all throughout solo queue this past couple weeks. So I like that ban too. Jinx, always an insurance ban from teams because it's just way too good in the later stages, so I respect that as well. University of Toronto, they've done their homework. Same thing with Boise State, man. Both these teams, they're just covering to make sure that no one's throwing them wild cards, as we said.
But Morgana has been left through with a ban so far.
Yep.
Aiming towards that top lane pool on a 5-2-7, more than trying to be able to take away probably one of the best junglers in the current meta. They've taken away both Rumble and Diana. So, of course, that means that without those two that you have to worry about, Diana especially being one of those great jungles to pick into the Morgana, of course, it's going to be immediately long to hit for a Donkey.
Yeah, I like that already so far. And again, it's also a potential flex that Dylan spoke about yesterday, that it can be flex jungle, mid, and support. You can kind of throw this champion wherever you want, depending on what matchup is going to be coming out. And knowing Diana's off the table, knowing that Rumble's off the table, Boise State got to figure out what they want to do to answer this in the jungle. They are going to be locking that Nocturne, as what the Desk has already mentioned for themselves. And they are going. This is the buildup of the Avengers right now, Alex. All you need now is more people who have globes that just join in the party.
No.
No.
You get a Camille in there, man. You get the Camille with Nocturne and Galio. I love that combination. Just being able to have that immediate delivery of Nocturne into the back line.
They still have a chance.
They
can still pick the Camille.
You don't want to do
Camille,
it blind.
Pantheon, Antalya, and then it's all good.
Yeah, you don't want to do that
show
blind,
up from
though.
all
Come
the
on,
way.
man. Come on, you know that. But right now we get Caitlyn locked in. So this actually might indicate to us that Donkey isn't going to be piloting that Morgana. Instead, they might be wanting to deflect that into the bot lane because Caitlyn Morgana is one of the best bot lane duos, even if maybe they themselves haven't been seen in Season 11. The power that they have when you land one Dark Binding into the Cupcake Trap, into a headshot after that. There it is. That Nidalee pretty much indicates exactly what we were already thinking.
One thing I am worried about, though, Alex, is that right now, University of Toronto, they picked a backliner who does not have a lot of tools to get away from Boise State, and the way they want to dive that backside. Same thing with Nidalee, too. Morgana can only save one member. You know, she has to kind of choose which one she wants to go for. Boise State, they're going to be adding more globals to the table with this Ash if they want to lock it in. But still, man, I'm not too sure if I like this Caitlyn pick. Yeah, you got a good Caitlyn Morgana on the bottom side, but imagine you got a Xayah. Imagine if you have someone else that can actually, you know, help you peel away and actually have a way of just being invulnerable for a couple seconds compared to Caitlyn, whereas Caitlyn can get tackled like that.
Right, and going up against something like an Ashe, it's pretty much going to be PvE ADCs. They're both not necessarily wanting to be too proactive themselves. It's more being able to clear out, try to see if they can get some plates, some turrets. While Ashe does have great pick potential and can be a good tool to utilize in this composition that Boise have for themselves, they aren't really going to be ones that you want to throw your bodies into these fights because they're so damn squishy and can get blown up so easily.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Boise right now just are pretty. If I'm Boise, I'm like, all right, I'm okay to kind of go into these three right now. We already see some bans coming in, and Nivea getting banned away from University of Toronto, making sure that they don't have that kind of, that don't have that champ to actually help them peel away with that Glacier Storm and that wall. Via, of course, being banned away too, because that's another champ that could just dive in and help out and just basically become a Morgana that you don't want to deal with, become a Nidalee, become a Caitlyn. You know, some of these champions that Vio could just become is really devastating for the University of Toronto team. But the biggest thing for U of T is that y'all need to get something that can actually block these two that are diving in. You need a strong front line to make sure that you are a-okay. You know, call up some linemen, make sure your quarterback and your running back is safe, because otherwise you're not going to be getting to that first down.
Well, I'm wondering if they want to go for maybe something like a tank in the top lane. Ornn could be a good option for them, some good long-range engage or disengage for the team, but something that can also body block a lot for the team to be able to absorb. But this is what I was wondering. With the Camille ban, they banned Camille, so that means they are really heavily indexing into that Exodia composition to make sure that everything is piled on top of Nocturne as he dives into the back line.
And they're honestly perfectly fine doing this because, again, University of Toronto, they have to kind of show what kind of utility you want to go for. And the good thing is that if you pick a tank top lane, who's the best tank that could beat him? It's going to be that Shen.
Who's to say that that's going to be a tank, that Shen top lane?
Okay,
that's the thing about this. Nocturne, Galio, and Shen can all be flexed around.
You're not going to be putting Shen in the bottom side, man.
You're playing
against Caitlyn Morgana. You don't want Shen in the bottom lane, brother. No, I know that. You don't want a Shen in the bottom lane against Caitlyn Morgana. I like this pick from the Mordekaiser. It is a good champion to stop those guys because you would take one piece of the puzzle away. But this is actually going to, if this Gnar gets locked in, that means it's going to be a mid lane Mordekaiser. All right, that's going to be interesting.
Death would be taking that. So it is going to be the mid lane Mordekaiser. Okay. I highly doubt that we'd see, you know, the Nargo mid lane. It is a potential technically, but yeah, exactly. It's just like no real reason to do that. You want to be able to send him top lane 4-5-2-7 with Mordekaiser mid lane though. This means that on the other side, that Boise State, what they want to answer with, that Kindred is locked in. They lock in Kindred. No, okay, they're swapping it up. It is going to be Silas. I was about to say, because that would mean that it would be the flex in. You'd have probably the Nocturne mid lane. It's going to be Silas mid lane, Nocturne jungle, Shen top lane, Galio support. It's like you said, it's good. Nothing that spicy. I was thinking maybe these teams, they could give us some spice. You're like, it's not Shen support. It's like, I don't know, man. These teams are already going crazy.
Alex, I haven't seen a Mordekaiser mid in like a hot minute, since like maybe like day one of Mordekaiser. So this is going to be mad interesting to see Mordekaiser play against Silas. If I know Silas and I know how Silas operates in the melees, usually he has a favored matchup into these champions. But Mordekaiser does have a lot of sustained damage, especially with that passive being online. Gotta wonder if University of Toronto are making sure they can win this, because they have to be mad disciplined to make sure these globals are not going to be used against them. They have to watch out for Shen ultimate. They got to watch out for Nocturne. They got to watch out for Galio. They got to watch out for Ashe ultimate. Like, this is the one thing that I actually criticize for University of Toronto, because the one thing that I said is that y'all need to bring some utility. Y'all need to make sure that you guys got some linemen to make sure that you guys don't get blitzed on. This composition, you only got one person who can stop one, and that's that Mordekaiser who can force a one-on-one. Everyone else is kind of squishy, and you're gonna need Meganar, but that's mad conditional. You know, you have to make sure you can manage that Meganar bar as well as you can. If you don't, you're dead.
What happens if a Silas steals a Mordekaiser ult, and then the ult at the same time? Do they have like it's a 2v2 fight in the Shadow Realm? Does it become that?
It's like Inception, man. You go one layer deep into the Shadow Realm, then you go 2 realms deep into the Shadow Realm. That's what I assume, but no, I don't think that's how it works. I think they just kind of go into individual Shadow Realms and then it cancels each other out. It's kind of like playing a field card in Yu-Gi-Oh. I play my field card, then you play yours, and yours beats mine, and this is how it goes. I assume it's going to be like that, just because I haven't seen this matchup in a hot minute. So that's what I'm wondering, but.
So, Will, let's dissect this a little bit. Let's look at the compositions. So, Boise State, we feel like they have a really clear identity of what they want. They have a great pick tool in this Ashe, but with everything else to kind of layer on top of it to be able to follow Ascent as he dives in. While the side of Toronto, it kind of feels like it's a mishmash of different things. They have some good skirmishing in there with the Nidalee, the Mordekaiser, the Gnar, but they also need to be able to kind of scale up for Caitlyn, even if her lane's going to be strong with Morgana, but eventually you become PvE. So what does Toronto need to do to be able to take down Boise State here?
I mean, the biggest thing that they have to get done is that bottom side, man. You have to get that gold and those plates onto Caitlyn and Morgana, and along with that, you got to make sure Nidalee's snowballing. The one thing that I got to mention, though, is that even if you have that gold, the one thing that you have to be mindful of are those global ultimates from Boise State. If you have a chance of staggering those ultimates, you make sure you can burn one without burning two, or not burning all of them at the same time, or abusing those windows where it's all shut and they can't use those ultimates. That's where University of Toronto can actually find that. And that's one thing that it's very hard for University of Toronto to do, because we look at these teams, man, even high-level teams sometimes forget to just keep track of those global ultimates, because even if you have the early game gold advantage, you get wombo combo, it's not going to matter, Alex.
That's true. And I will say one thing, I'm a little sad that Toronto didn't draft, because Gwen was wide open. I always feel like Gwen actually would have been pretty good against the composition drafted by Boise State, purely because of her W, and how she's able to avoid a lot of that from that range.
Yeah, but then how are you going to protect? You're protecting yourself. You got to protect the rest of the team, man.
No. 1v9 this.
No. You have to protect the rest of the team, Alex.
Wait.
That's the one thing that University of Toronto doesn't have.
This
is a team game.
Oh.
Yes, it's a team game.
Oh.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm a support player that takes all the kills, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, no one can be, unfortunately in this game, we don't have any Steph Currys on the court. So they all have to play a team game. I want to see team basketball come in. That's one thing of University of Toronto. It looks like they don't really have. The one that they do have those is that individual agency. Nara can look for that one-on-one against Shen, which is a counter matchup. Nidalee into Nocturne, if Nidalee starts snowballing, can be able to just burst Nocturne as much as he can. And then you take a look at the mid lane. If Mordekaiser gets ahead, then I can understand that Mordekaiser can actually win that matchup straight up. But that's all it's going to be for University of Toronto, man. Can you get snowballing? Can you get these isolated one-on-ones? And can you make sure none of their boys are going to show up to help them out?
Well, and
I don't know.
I gotta go to this mid lane, and I even feel like, the Silas Mordekaiser matchup is still a coin flip. It's more of a skill matchup there on who's really going to be able to win, because if you can get an early kill for Silas, I feel like he's going to be able to beat Mordekaiser, but then vice versa. Mordekaiser's able to get that first kill.
It's just volatile.
Right.
Yeah, it's so volatile in that mid lane matchup, because Silas is all based on if you actually, depending on when you want to use that Kingslayer. Mordekaiser, because you have to deal with Silas that has a decent amount of mobility, you have to land that single target Q. And if you don't get the single target Q, your damage output is actually pretty dang null. So, honestly, I'm just down to see both these teams sell it out. I expected spiciness. We are not expecting this kind of spiciness when it comes to draft, but the Mordekaiser is a new thing. Seeing Caitlyn Morgana back in the bottom side again is also something new. And I'm excited to see if University of Toronto can just kind of live up to their old name, whereas Boise State, they have to see if they can actually uphold themselves as a team that has a good program and a good production team behind their backs.
I almost wish that we could get the lifeline, call Invert up and be like, yo, what do you think of this draft coming in from Toronto? How's your old alumni doing over there? Do you approve, or do you think that they need to change things up? Because it is going to be difficult for them to be able to succeed if they can't find that early snowball. If they can't find those early kills, especially for Donkey on this Nidalee, you need to make sure Nidalee is snowballing, helping out Mordekaiser too, so they can tag team, rotate around the map, and stop that pressure that's going to come in once these globals come through for the side of Boise State.
One thing I would say though is that when you are playing against these kind of comps that have globals, is figuring out ways to just kind of attack without burning a lot of your own resources or things that you can actually trade away from. Usually, you don't want to trade Flash when you want to.
Well,
blow
Flash
their
is an
ultimates,
offensive summoner, anyways.
Okay, yeah. In this game for Universe Toronto is not an offensive summoner. Like
no,
you have
it's
to
always,
be able to get out of dodge.
Always.
No, Alex. No, stop. This is a defensive summoner in this situation. When you have the advantage, then you can use it offensively. You have to be very mindful of how you want to use those flashes, Alex. And we look at University of Toronto. When you want to enter global compositions, how do you burn those ultimates without losing as many resources as you have? Because one of those ultimates is a big key thing for the Boise State squad. And for Boise State, if you guys mess up on that Wombo combo, it's actually going to be detrimental too. So that's kind of the seesaw that I'm going to be seeing for both these teams.
That is true. You have to make sure you are working together in tandem when you want to be able to go for that full initiation. Because if you go in with the Nocturne ult, they don't have heroic entrance, they don't have stand united up, that Nocturne gonna die. He's not going to be able to survive nearly long enough to be able to do anything, because Mordekaiser is going to be not super tanky, but he's going to be slightly more difficult to kill. Gnar is also going to be something you're not going to be able to tackle down too quickly. The only real targets you're going to have are maybe Nidalee. You can get on top of Caitlyn, but then there's a Black Shield, so you're not going to guarantee that you can get that fear, because you're not going to be able to burn through that Black Shield.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. When we look at Boise State and their composition, it's kind of they're all kind of lining up to take the fight. It's like Nocturne's going to go in, and then Shen's going to be behind me, but I'm going to take some damage before Shen shows up. And when Shen comes in, Galio's going to come in right after, but Shen's going to take some damage before Galio shows up. It's all where University Toronto want to focus on that single target damage, and also while doing so, cutting away from that engage that Boise State has. But if they don't manage to be synced up and focus fire that Nocturne, or focus fire the first person who's showing up on that dive, then it becomes very dangerous for the University of Toronto team.
Well, I feel like this is actually going to be more onto Goblin than it is going to be onto Ascent on this Nocturne, because I feel like the real trigger pull is going to come when that arrow lands. You have to land a good arrow onto the right target, and then everything is going to happen after that. Because if you land the arrow onto Mordekaiser, you land it onto Def Ref, you land it onto 527, those aren't really the targets you want to be able to follow up onto. But if you can get it onto Donkey, if you can get it onto Sicko mode, boom, then you go in and you make sure that you can blow them up before there's ever even a chance to be able to fight back.
Yeah, but remember though that about that arrow being pulled up, you know what University of Toronto has, Alex? That's when the Black Shield counts. That's when that arrow's not going to matter at all.
Well, I'm also expecting to see a cleanse too from Sicko mode. I would like. I don't want to just see just relying on Black Shield, because that can get burned down pretty fast by like a Silas or even by Shen. You'd be surprised how much magic damage he's able to do when he gets his tank items built up. You need something else to make sure that you can get out of dodge.
Yeah, hopefully they can, man. They definitely need some of those items as soon as possible. I'm just excited to see how both these teams want to execute their compositions, Alex. We've been here talking about these key teams and dissecting how well they should be playing, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to execution, baby.
It does.
That's what I have to see, man. Can one of these teams execute the best way they can when it comes to their compositions? And if they can, they're going to get that victory in this game one.
Because we are still in the round of 32. University of Toronto, Boise State University. They're trying to see if they can take this first game. They've gotten some fun compositions for us. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but still making sure that we have something that we aren't expecting to see. That Mordekaiser mid, getting this Wombo combo for Boise State as well on the other side. Will all come down to execution.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious now because we haven't seen Mordekaiser show up in a long time. Old Mordekaiser. I wonder what his itemization is going to be. There's a lot of ways you can. Riftmaker is probably going to be the main staple one, but after that, you kind of free flow your itemization depending on your comp and their comp too. So, Def Ref, definitely curious to see what they want to go for.
I'm also curious to see if it is going to be that Rift Maker, because sometimes you actually see Mordekaiser, especially mid lane, try to switch it up a bit, try to go for something a bit more utility-based, since they have that AP damage source from Donkey and this Nidalee. Maybe you can go for something that's going to be more about helping out the team, be a bit more of a frontline wall, as opposed to being something that, as the fight continues, is going to get more and more scary. Jesus.
And along with that, wondering what how Boise State wants to kind of handle themselves with these role swaps. The only one that didn't roll swap is that bottom side. Goblin and Dean have stayed consistent throughout this role swap, so I expect them to do the same. Dean, of course, former support for Columbia College back in the heydays when we had the old University of Toronto be playing in. So that's always something exciting to see. But outside of that, no big change.
Not yet.
When it comes to this early game.
Well, right now, just kind of standard. Pretty much the bot lane going how we'd expect. You know, Caitlyn, Morgana, they're going to be able to get the lane priority, especially against a melee support. Unless you're full-on engaging level 1, you're not really going to want to fight against them anyways. Mid lane, Red Hots was actually able to get that slow push back towards Defref after taking a bad level 1 trade. The help of that Corrupting Pots with all those biscuits going to make it so that he's constantly going to try to see if they can find a little bit of damage back on Defref.
It's always a little bit tough, though, when playing against Mordekaiser. Defref can always play that war of attrition and just make sure that he can sustain himself with that W, and along with that, just attacking your mana pool because he doesn't have any mana.
True.
That's one thing that Mordekaiser does have compared to other matchups.
Nice taunt.
In the mid lane. So, and then, of course, AD carry. Not playing the AD carry role in the top lane. Playing against 527 is getting some good trades overall. But Nar will eventually start winning this matchup, especially with him going that...
Red Hots, Defref, taking a trade with one another. Looking at Defref, though, he has Ignite, flash forward, and he gets the solo kill. You can't fight Mordekaiser like that.
You know, sometimes you get caught off guard when your mid laner runs Ignite, and you're like, oh, wait, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I feel like Red Hots wasn't ready for that either. He wants to come back swinging, though.
I like this. This is a ballsy play. The shield there for Defref. He's going to be able to swagger himself on out of there.
Yeah, usually when we look at Mortal Kombat, we say, get over here. Well, before he gets that, 527,
Yeah, going to die underneath the turret. Was barely not able to get that Mega Gnar. Had he been able to get that, I think he could have traded back.
Could have. Fortunate, though. Just have to see what the rest of the team is going to be going for. You see Donkey in the mid lane, just making sure he gets some of the minions for himself, pushing a Red Hot away. But just going to be going back to us first just a second, Alex.
Just had a little bit of an issue there. Sorry about that. Okay, I was wondering if it was just me or not, but hopefully going to be able to get some things sorted in just a little bit. I know I'm a little bit in the Matrix now, but it doesn't matter because we can talk about what's going on in this game. Having a solo kill mid lane for Mordekaiser. We talked about how this is a volatile matchup. It could go either way. It's really a skill matchup, but Mordekaiser getting that solo kill early on might be proof to us that this is not going to be favoring that Silas at all.
Whoa. And Dean died. Okay.
Ignite. Yeah, it was Ignite. I think he stepped on. Oh, not stepped on. He got hit by the Dark Binding into Cupcake and then tried to get away with Justice Punch, but the Ignite was already taken away.
Yeah. All right. Well, so Seika Mode and Little Frosty showing themselves up against a Goblin and Dean. Ooh, getting another one, too.
Bop.
Well, Seika Mode.
But Psycho Mode, you gotta be careful. Has to use the heal to be able to survive that one. Took the turret way too long there. But we got to take a look at this replay to see exactly what happened.
Okay. All right, I assume that Dark Binding landed. Yeah, I Justice Punch and then you got landed with that Dark Binding. You get hit by that Dark Binding, you know what happens, Alex?
You die.
Well, first off, you eat a cupcake, and then you die. That's what happens. You get a little bit of that cupcake for yourself. First.
I was gonna say, so you get a little bit of sweets on the way out at least.
Exactly.
You know, it's
whoa,
bot lane.
Okay.
We had a nice kills coming in from the side of Boise State. It's a 2-for-1 trade only because Donkey was able to show up there.
All right. Missing some action because of these replays, but regardless, good answer from the Boise State squad. However, one thing that is still favored for University of Toronto is that CS lead that they got. Because Seiko Mode, he got 200. He got a good amount of gold ahead of Goblin. Usually when we look at Goblin, man, you want some gold. Goblins already want gold, but Seiko Mode, he's definitely doing a good job making sure he's maintaining that lane priority. Let's take a look at what actually happened in that bottom side. Oh, another Justice Punch. All right. Eat a cupcake?
Yeah, it was just a good flash coming in from Goblin. I think they just overstayed their welcome there and not respecting the damage come in from a volley.
Yeah.
And right here, and whoop.
Boom. Wins a war.
Yep. Well, wins a war, as well as I think Goblin probably could have gotten that kill had he and lived had he just played it a little bit safer. But still, 2-for-1 trade. Now bot lane. Look at this. Scent hanging on the wings, but no paranoia to speak of. Exactly. So it's going to be difficult. And look at how safe Psycho Mode and Little Frosty are playing. They're staying so far back because they don't know exactly where Dean is. Psycho Mode, nice ward to be able to spot out where Dean was.
Yeah, I was surprised that Dean didn't want to pull off that Justice Punch right then and there, but good awareness from the bottom lane of University of Toronto. And that's the beauty of rocking the Kayla Morganas. Like, yes, usually you see Kayla Morgana, they're full-on pushing, trying to get them plates early on, but because you're playing Kayla Morgana, you get the choice of when you want to push and when you want to let them push. And then that was a good situation where you let them push because you could have opened yourselves up to getting ganked because you don't have double flash here.
Mid lane into the Shadow Realm they go. But we've seen this before. Even with the level lead, you lose this one red hot.
Yeah, when you don't got Kingslayer, when you use it a little bit too early on, Def Ref, single target Q, that club's going to hurt. And it definitely felt that. Goblin forced to blow that cleanse against that dark binding too, but University of Toronto, man, the mid lane is definitely looking good for himself.
I mean, when you have 2 solo kills for your Mordekaiser, he is dominating in this mid lane. It seems like nobody's really going to be able to stop him anytime soon. Gets himself a free plate, going to rotate around to be able to help Donkey. Isn't this what we asked for? Is this Mordekaiser and Italy combination to be able to work with one another? Top lane.
Mega.
Even though he's Mega, that's why Ascent was holding on to the Paranoia, not wanting to dive in too soon. It's going to be able to Mega Gnar. Here's the dive in with the Paranoia, getting a lot of damage on top of him, but a good wall on top of Ascent. Going to have to use Stamina just to be able to survive.
Okay.
But all the while, you see that the Dragon was taken by Toronto.
Yo, 527. That was pretty clean, man. You told him to get off view twice. And that was a good thing with that ultimate, with the wallop, with everything else.
He didn't have flash either.
He didn't even have to burn. He didn't even have flash. So good stuff from 527. Also a good answer from the rest of the squad of University of Toronto to get that Dragon 2, knowing that Ascent was on the top side. Well played and a good punish overall.
So much was used by Boise State trying to get that kill on the 527. And the fact that they weren't even able to secure that is devastating for them. And you can see that translating into this gold lead, where even though the kills are nearly dead, even the gold is vastly in favor of the side of Toronto at this point, and they put it into the right points. Look at this. Mid lane, we already knew that there was going to be that massive lead, but same with the jungle too.
This is where I'm looking at University of Toronto, and they're looking good on all fronts individually. You know, this is where I look at them as like, this is a good thing. You're not getting tackled by that ultimate. You know, we take a look at Nocturne. Usually we say, yo, Nocturne, you got to get that first ultimate off. It has to be a really good one. That ultimate wasn't a good one, and along with that, Stan United is gone too. The only global that they got on deck is Dean with that heroic entrance. But where's he going to be using it if he's getting pressured all day in the bottom lane, Alex? He has to leave and abandon bottom lane? That's not a good look either. You're going to make a high-risk, high-reward play, and University of Toronto, they understand that. Okay.
Carry nearly getting killed. I don't know. 527. It's Mininar, and he's really good at kiting back and chasing. If he's smart on this one, he might be able to get the Bonerang and actually be able to chase it down. Exactly what he might try to do. He's going to cancel the back, tank a turret shot, but now that he's got the passive stacked up, he can look to see if he can just slowly whittle away at the health bar. Coming in from Carry.
Man.
One little
Don't be going to the
There it is. Flashed away, but now it's on the other side. Got to be careful, but he's not taking the aggro. Trying to get the Bonerang, get the kill, but now the Red Hots is here too. They've got a solo kill given over to Ascent.
527 got mad antsy, man. I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that, brother. You don't know where Ascent's at. And he actually did it, and then he gave him a kill away.
At least he tried.
He did. I respect him trying it, but then this is where you got to be mindful. And 80 carry, I don't know, man. It looked like he was just going for a bait the entire time, because in no way, shape, or form will the 80 carry, will a top laner stay like this unless he knows he got backup on the way. 527 got mad antsy. He hopped in. He flashed the taunt, but he flashed a little bit too far, Alex. Couldn't get that auto attack in.
And now no flash to be able to get away from Ascent either.
Yep.
Bada bing, bada boom. I will say it was a bit odd. I thought that for sure that they would still at least get some kill credit coming in for carry there with how much he was able to do. But unfortunately, I guess just the timers, not a single tick of damage, even with the bomby sender on a 527. Yeah, exactly. It was too risky. Had he gotten anywhere near, he would have died.
Yeah.
But now you got another kill on Ascent. You didn't have to use Paranoia, and here comes the play mid lane. With the arrow connecting on a Death Breath, they go into the Shadow Realm 1v1 against Red Hots, who has no mana. Just try to fight against this Mordekaiser. He's got so much damage coming in from this Q with the Obliterate with the shields as well. There's the Paranoia, but they got the kill in the back line. And you can't kill the Mordekaiser. Wait, he says. As they take 2 kills mid lane.
Alex, what I say about this Mordekaiser, man, you can't tackle him because he's going to take one of you to the Shadow Realm. They blew everything on Def Ref to make sure he goes down, but he just pulls out Red Hots and he's a final one-on-one. We have another one-on-one on the bottom side. Seiko Mode's going to win on this.
Oh, no, that's not looking good. Oh, but the body block not there. Barely was able to get the ace in the hole. Seiko Mode going to be able to flash away with the flash coming in from Dean, trying to chase it down. Avoids the cupcake with the hammer smash.
Yo, I want to see that ultimate again, that ace in the hole, because it slid right by. It slid right by Dean. It went straight through him when he showed up, man. That was actually crazy.
Yeah, I thought the body block was there.
I thought it was going to be there, too.
Entrance was going to body block it. It was barely, and now, oh, man. Def Ref, can you...
No.
God, you let him have something at least. Jesus, he can't even show up mid lane anymore.
Whoa.
Even little Frosty was trying to get in on the action.
Okay, Frosty blew Ignite in the mid lane, too. Red Hots.
Dead. No, he's dead. Oh, there it is. Auto.
Flash auto attack from Lil Frosty. I like it.
See, Flash is an offensive summoner, Will. Yeah. What did I tell you?
When you this far ahead, then go ahead, brother. If you this far ahead, then might as well flash forward, because everyone's flash forward. 527 did it. Lil Frosty did it. Seiko Mo flashing defensively, but regardless, right now, University of Toronto, they're getting a lot of plates on their field of battle. And also in the mid lane, Def Ref, we didn't take a look at it but he did get 4 plates by himself. Take a look at his mid lane, though. This is where I told you that you can't be blowing all these ultimates against Mordekaiser or Ascent, even though if he gets that fear off. Def Ref is in the Shadow Realm, man. Red Hots, he's by himself, and take a look at everyone else. Donkey landing the spear, and then you see a solid 2-on-1 on the backside with Lil Frosty and Def Ref to make sure Aspect can't do anything. Ascent can't do anything. Super good from the University of Toronto team, and this is what I was talking about. If you stagger those ultimates coming through, it's very key. Alex, take a look at this real quick.
Oh, look at this. Okay, I just want to see this. Frames off.
Yo, that missile was legit right behind Dean. You hate to see it, brother.
You do. I thought it was gonna be that highlight reel where it's just in time, but like frames off barely. And now look at this massive lead for Toronto. They have full control around the Dragon Pit. Def Ref has 2 levels over Red Hots in this mid lane with that completed Rift Maker.
I mean, everyone has level advantage right now. You take a look at the jungle too. You know, Donkey's 2 levels ahead against Ascent. Everything else is working well. They're 6K ahead by 14 minutes. But Red Hots, you want to go for a counterattack?
Okay. They're trying to see if they can get the kill at least onto Little Frosty, but he's still alive on the other side. They're trying to see if they can chase onto him, but they can't get on top of him. That's Echo Mode.
Donkey!
Going to take the aggression, but he's still alive too with the bot lane. How in the world have they managed this?
Donkey!
They jump in and they assassinate him before they get the ult coming in from Shen. Dean now trying to be able to get away, but they can commit to the safe if they want to. All the while, top lane, the 1v1 fight. There's no ult to be able to escape this one. The 1v1 goes to 5-2-7.
Man, everyone at University just bopping heads right now. We take a look at Donkey in that bottom side of the fight. My boy was landing spears left and right, and he was diving in, finding Silas 1-on-1 too, and winning at the back end of it. Good stuff on them, because that was a numbers discrepancy if I seen one. Remember, Def Ref wasn't a part of that at the end of the day, and University of Toronto still winning that hands down. And with that kind of move that Boise State threw in, with that high-risk, high-reward play to try and go for a blue buff punish, it just bit him right back in the butt. We'll take a look at that replay again.
To me, Will, is the fact that Lil Frosty and Seiko Mode both get down to double-digit health.
Oh! Yeah, man. Look at Lil Frosty. Winds of War not going to land, too. But we see, look at Donkey. He's doing such a good job in a 1-on-1 and Seiko Mode. Gale forcing weight just in time. That Cupcakes is going to be hurting. And then we take a look at this. Remember, Def Ref wasn't a part of this. He didn't get any assists, man. He was just showing up like, yo, what's up, guys? I'm here to root y'all on. I'm here to be a cheerleader.
Moral support from your super fed Mordekaiser mid lane, but the fact that nobody dies on the side of Toronto, they are now in a huge... They were already in a commanding lead to begin with, but now we are only here just shy of 16 minutes into the game at a 9,000 gold lead for Toronto.
Yeah, it's a little crazy, man. I expected this to be pretty much of a slugfest. It was a little bit of a slugfest, but then this global composition just isn't being utilized together as a team. It's looking like Avengers before Loki got up all in their heads, and they were like, you know, we got to fight one-on-one.
Okay, 1v3 right now. Here's the heroic entrance, but they got the backup. They got the spear landing. Red Hawks is annihilated immediately from the fight. Dean trying to survive underneath the turret with the scent on the flank, trying to be able to get with a huge taunt. They're going to be able to get the kill they need to on a 5-2-7, but now it's turned around. Look at the damage coming in from Tormented Soils, getting the kill on a carry. Ascent flashed in on a donkey, but he's 2 levels down. Even with the fear back towards the turret, he can't fight back. It's unstoppable, Donkey.
Yeah, one thing about this global composition, Alex, is that you got to use it offensively, and you got to use it while you're getting things off the bat. If you use it defensively, what are you going to get off the board outside of bounty kills? That's pretty much it. And them losing 4 members for the side of 2 isn't a good look for the Boise State squad. But take a look at this. This is where they're utilizing those ultimates defensively. Dean going to come with that heroic charge, but already University of Toronto know what they're going to be going for, and with all these ultimates being blown out, that's pretty much it. You know, Seiko Mode's coming in. Of course, they get a little bit too antsy on this dive, but regardless, they still manage to take it all the way through because they're utilizing these ultimates in defensive ways when they're not going to be getting anything out of it, and even then, they're paying it with their lives.
And that's the big thing, is that you're not getting enough gold back to make any of this worthwhile. Donkey has... God, I think he's at 7 kills now into this game on this Nidalee, that even if the early game wasn't necessarily... it's only 5 kills. But even if it wasn't necessarily dominant by Donkey, it's been a dominant performance by Toronto all across the board. Even though 5-2-7 has died 3 times top lane, look at the amount of pressure this Gnar has been able to get for the team.
And again, these guys don't play standard, man. These guys just play the way they like to play. University of Toronto, they like to hype themselves up. They like to play with their friends, and this is what they are like. This is a team that doesn't really practice or doesn't really scrim as much, but they're still having a pretty dang good performance against Boise State, a team that has pretty solid players across the board. When we take a look at Dean, take a look at Ascent. You know, they're pretty solid and notable players that I've seen at least across. But
right.
Shadow Realm. You can't be tackling Mordekaiser,
he's
bro. He's going to pull him in the Shadow Realm.
2 levels over the Shen now. And look at the damage coming in with Obliterate flashed away. They're going to get the charm, at least with the knockup coming in from Dean. 4 members have been committed to try to kill Deathriff. But look at the damage onto Red Hawks. The flash coming in. Another Obliterate. Finally, he falls in the fight. But with that, look at what's happening across the map. The turrets are falling left and right.
Yo, my boy Defro was looking like Thanos real quick, man. Boise State threw all the Avengers in to see if he could take him down, and finally he does. But what do you have to pay for? You definitely have to pay for some turrets being blipped out of this universe. As top inner turret, middle inner turret's going to be gone too. Rift Herald's going to be taken out of the board. Dragon's coming up in the next 5 seconds, and more than likely, University of Toronto, they're going to be setting themselves up for it, and they're going to be taking that for themselves too, and that puts them at soul point.
This is not a equivalent exchange here. Even though they got the arrow landing, they might be able to at least blow up Seiko, but he's still alive! How the hell does he keep doing this? Stand United on top of it. Not going to be completed. Instead, it's going to be the focus on the Red House. Nice Gnar also be able to finally take him down with a shutdown, but the entire fight is a wash for them. They've got so much coming in from them. Donkey's hiding back away from Carry, looking for the chase down on a Dean while they got the double kill coming in from 5-2-7. How in the world does Toronto keep getting away with this?
Yo, Seiko Mode blew everything to make sure he got dodged. Finally, he goes down with Red Hots taking the Gnar ultimate away so he can use it himself. But you paid for everything just to get 2 kills, and this is what I was talking about for Boise State, where that was the one time they utilized their ultimates together as a team. The thing is that it's 19 minutes in, and you're way too far behind to actually give them a team wipe in favor for yourselves. And with all that being said and done, Alex, University of Toronto, they're going for these smart punishes. They're singling people out. Death Breath fighting one-on-one against Ascent. He's going to be looking to take this too.
Dead. No, Ascent's dead.
He's dead. That's it.
He's going to kill him once he gets him, and now he's got the damage coming in. Can he 1v3 this with a huge shield coming back? And no, he's not going to be able to. He's going to be taken down, but he got the kill on the Ascent in the wild.
The man feeling himself, Alex. University of Toronto, all of them are feeling themselves. You look at Donkey, 6017, Seiko Mode. He understood what to use just to make sure he gets out of dodge from everyone in Boise State. Little Frosty, a little bit later than the Black Shield, but even then still doing so good. You look at that Baron, man. What's up, Alex? What's up?
Look at Donkey's inventory.
I know.
What do you see?
He has the Chronicles of Narnia being built up, man.
Yes, he does. He's got all of it. 20 stacks on that Magi's right now.
20 stacks of Narnia.
I want to see one of these spears land at max range. I want to see if it can one-shot Goblin.
We'll see if he can nail it. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he Aaron Rodgers?
I think it could.
Is he Aaron Rodgers? That's the
Oh,
question.
Well, let's take a look at this replay right now.
Harold can
I mean,
find it.
honestly, it looked nice coming in.
looked
It's
good.
like, oh, they got this
Yeah.
pick onto Seiko mode, but somehow continues to live, and that's the
Yeah.
big fault here.
Yeah, he got boosted out with that heal, with that flash, and also a donkey throwing
Gale
that
Force.
heal too. Gale Force as well. Like everything he used just to make sure he got out of it. It was a little bit unfortunate because Little Frosty wasn't ready for the Black Shield, but if it was, that counterattack would have been even worse for Ware. Good stuff though, because Seiko Mode stalled out that fight for the longest time. Trade 1 for 4? Take that trade any day.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that you lose Seiko mode, who is right now 3-3 and 7 on Caitlyn. That's not really your carry here. Donkey is the big carry here.
Yeah,
6-0-7, 20 stacks of that Magi's. You really just want Seiko mode for this, for being able to take
Oh,
the
they wanna
turn,
go.
and a nice Black Shield this time around.
This is what I'm
They're
talking
trying
about.
to full engage, but a nice Nora ult. They're going to be able to get at least
They
Guardian's
win
Angel
this.
blown. But now, with the throwing back around, look, Death
Death Ref
finally
here.
showing up into the fight, getting a huge amount of damage onto Goblin on the other side, while Carry is taken down by the rest of the members of Toronto. They've got this game in the bag. Shelly here to make sure they got the moral support.
That's the difference when Black Shield lands before that arrow comes through. You look at Sycamore, he was 100% okay. And that's what we like to see of University of Toronto, but then we add more X factors in. 527 was mega gnar, and that was the one thing I stressed when it came to drafts, that you can't be pulling ultimates with that. We get in the dancing, Shelly? We get in the dancing, Shelly?
I think we get the
We get in the
dancing,
dancing, Shelly. I asked
There
for
we
some
go.
moves, man. We got some moves on this rift today. That's what I like to see.
Game 1 picked up by Toronto, with Shelly getting a little bit of a groove on here, 22 and a half minutes into the game. And honestly, I look at this game, and it seemed like a nice draft from Boise State, but Toronto, Def Ref getting solo kill after solo kill mid lane. Yeah, Donkey absolutely a terror on this Nidalee.
Yeah.
It just felt like Boise had no real good answer when it came to how they're going to be able to compete against them, even though they had a draft that we thought was going to be able to have way better team fights.
That's what I was talking about. I think if I'm Boise State, that composition, of course, solid identity. No matter what, you look at that all day, every day, it's all right, cool. We can use Nocturne ulti. We can have Shen come in. We can have Galley come in. We have Ash ulti to start it up, and then, we'll see what happens. The thing is that we take a look at that first ultimate. We take a look at those lanes as well, Alex, is that before that ultimate first came out from Ascent in the jungle, all the lanes were already losing. We saw on the top side, 527 was already 20 CS ahead. Bottom side, 20 CS ahead. Mid lane, Def Ref got a solo kill. This is where a lot of these things occurred, and when you throw out that first ultimate and it fails, everything starts becoming downhill from there.
Well, we'll see if they're going to commit to these lanes being swapped around or not. We're going to toss it back over to Cubby and Co. and let them break down this game a little bit further. So, Cubby, take it away.
Thank you so much, Mad Magical, for the Mad Lads casting on that game. And what a maddening game we had for that game 1. It was 23 minutes, but man, was it bloody in between as U of T Esports takes game 1 against Boise State. And I know that before we dive into these replays, one of the concerns or question marks we had for Boise State is how are they going to look with these lane swaps? And Dylan, going to start off with you, as it seems like Boise State having a little bit of growing pains integrating a new member and switching around some of their the members that have been there for the entire time. They've had some growing pains. It didn't look like they're as focused or as centered as we usually see the Broncos perform on the big stage.
Yeah, it kind of felt like some of these Boise State players were maybe a little uncomfortable. I'm happy that, Ascent was able to get his hands onto a champion that we know he can play. With the Nocturne, we've seen him play at mid before, both in solo queue and in competitive matches. But it did feel like in terms of jungle pathing and decision making, he was maybe falling a little bit short, as Pulp Ethug, his successor, would be doing if he were to be playing in this series. And just in general, it felt like they lacked direction. They didn't really have a cohesive game plan in this game. They didn't really have like Chilling Walk was saying, they had a good team comp. Their draft was fine, clear identity. You want to pair the Nocturne with the Galio, with the Shen. You have backline access very easily, but they didn't really take the steps to get their team composition to that point. And I don't know, it kind of felt like they didn't really match their composition with their gameplay. Yes.
Okay, I'm back. So while Ascent didn't really look bad, he didn't really have the same impact that someone like Ethug might have had, Pulp. And so I think it's important to note that even though their coach of Boise State, Japanese import, is a good player, challenger jungler, and he can teach some of those things, he might not be able to teach like the decision making on, okay, let's go here, do this, and really getting the team rallying behind that player.
Yeah, I mean, a tough task and a big ask for the players over on Boise State to kind of fill in those holes. But still, we're going to talk about some of the highlights for both of these teams, diving into the replays. And Command Attack, I'm blessed to be on the desk with you for this one, because while your namesake might come from Oriana, you are the Mordekaiser expert that we have on this desk. And what do we have? A Mordekaiser mid, something that you said this player plays in solo queue, and something that you play quite a bit yourself. Talk me through some of this matchup and how we got this first blood.
So Mordekaiser mid versus Sylas is almost impossible to play unless the Sylas doesn't really understand the matchup. Here, Defref does have an Ignite, but as soon as the Kingslayer is on cooldown, like used before Sylas is low HP, he's not able to win it. So Defref can extend the fight, use the shield, and go for the solo kill. As soon as this happens, the matchup will swing completely the other direction, where Mordekaiser can just say, you die when I want you to die. So I think this was really good by Defref to recognize that, hey, I can create a kill here. And it's a little bit unfortunate that Red Hots didn't understand the damage, but it's understandable, like Mord's not really a meta champion right now. So I'm really hoping to see more of that in the future from UOT.
Yeah, and it felt like there were some windows of opportunity where Ascent maybe could have bailed him out. And I don't know if that's just a lack of coordination with Red Hot and Ascent not really playing together in that capacity really ever, just because they're off role, there's a substitute coming in. If it were just their traditional roster, you probably would have seen, you know, the jungler visit the mid lane, because Mordekaiser without flash before he was level 6, his wave was in a pretty bad spot. He wasn't able to get it in after that solo kill, so I would have liked to see Ascent maybe punish that, but it didn't come through. Mordekaiser got the wave crashed after we reset and everything was good.
Yeah, and from that, I mean, we've talked a lot about on the desk about using flavor picks, using things that your team is very comfortable with that other teams may not have seen as much throughout the season. I love the fact that we saw that from University of Toronto. I think the interview that we had before the games, where Chilling Walk was talking with some of their members, they like to play very free-flowing League of Legends. We got to see that premiere on this Game 1 big stage for the round of the top 32, as we're going to dive into this next replay, and we just have University of Toronto taking everything on the map, snowballing that early lead they were able to get from some individual plays and now transitioning it into team plays. And Command Attack, walk me through exactly how they were able to do it in this replay coming up.
Sure. So University of Toronto, they played better than their counterparts, obviously. Here it's actually an engage from the Broncos, but it's one where it's a little bit misguided because Nidalee was able to get in the back line. They overextend a little bit. As soon as this happens, the Nidalee just takes the entire game over just from some of the micro and the hands, as we keep referring it to. So well played on the flash to get the kill before the Shen's able to come in. And once a champion like Nidalee, who's just full on tempo, go, go, go type champion, gets ahead, it's just impossible to play the game. So very well played by them.
Yeah, and I know that Donkey, I mean, that Nidalee play that he premiered in this game, Dylan, you were rather impressed with his Nidalee play throughout this one, and I think we really saw that shine in the highlight. I know that you spent a lot of time talking about Ascent in the jungle. What kind of impression did Donkey leave on you in this Game 1?
You know, it really, I haven't seen him play too much, both in solo queue and in games, but he left a very good impression on me. His Nidalee kind of took over a lot of these mid-game skirmishes. Seems like he had a good idea of like where to be pathing, what lanes to cover, like what laners need help. And I don't know if that's like his laners communicating that to him or him just being aware of that himself. But like not only was his Nidalee mechanics good, like his decision making was very solid. And it just seems like he's a very confident jungler. A lot of these plays and engages that he was going for, like, it's something that you don't normally see a jungler that's not comfortable on his champion do, and Nidalee is one of those junglers. It's like the AP version of Lee Sin, where, like, it is a confidence pick. You know, some people call it, like, an ego pick. It's, like, not the best jungler in a lot of scenarios, but it, like, scales with how good you are at it. So it's one of those junglers that, like, if you're bad at it, it's not going to have a lot of impact. But if you're great at it, and you could just take over games like this.
I do think it's one of those perfect picks for a game like this where you're playing against someone with less jungle experience, less knowledge in Ascent. So if he doesn't know how to handle the Nidalee and all the pressure that she can put out, then I think that Donkey can continue to punish Ascent in the jungle here, unless there's another role swap, of course.
Yeah, going to have to see what Boise State throws at us, but I know that University of Toronto, we got more replays. We got to have a mid-lane fight that they absolutely smashed and shreked through as the Broncos, they held as strong as they could, but man, once Toronto started taking a couple of these fights, it was over quickly, and Dylan, I know this mid-fight really caught your eye.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a pretty disgusting mid-fight from the side of Toronto. Like, we see the combo being able to be pulled off, right? You have Ashe for the global initiation, you have Galio following up, but as soon as Caitlyn's able to really just disengage it, heal back up, and kite it out, like, the Shen ult was pretty pointless. Shen's already there. You're just doing that for the shield, and, I mean, things were just tough. Like, the gold lead was so far ahead that you can see the angle in which they could win a team fight if the gold was even. And that's something that we've been harping on throughout the last 2 days. If these games weren't so far one-sided in the beginning, these teams that have these mid-game comebacks, it would actually matter. But because they're down 10,000 gold, it's just too much. It is simply too much. If that fight happens with a 2,000, 3,000 gold discrepancy, then, I mean, that would just be Boise right back in the game. They'd take the shutdowns, they would, get whatever objectives, whatever CS, jungle camps are up on the map, and they would be right back in the game. But unfortunately, just a little bit too late on that, and, I mean, we see Toronto wipe the fight.
So continuing that, in the future of this series and for all the other teams that are participating, try to make your plays early in the game to where you might have the lead instead of waiting till the end of the game to say, okay, well, we have to do something now. Be confident and make those plays, and then maybe you'll be the ones in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and I think kind of shifting towards talk about game 2. I know we got one more replay of the highlight, the game-winning fight. We can let this one run out. Look at all the beautiful plays that Toronto was able to showcase in this game 1, but I kind of want to also shift our focus towards game 2 while we let this one run out. And going back to you, TJ, I mean, what do you think about the changes that you want to see out of Boise State as they fell a little bit flat in this game 1, came out of the gates a little bit that we wanted to see more is what I'm trying to get at, as they failed to really put any pressure down. You mentioned early game. Anything specific you have in mind for them?
I wouldn't say any champion in particular, but the way that Red Side's draft is set up is that Nocturne's able to go in, but if Nocturne can't get to that point or his team is too far ahead, or the enemy team is too far ahead by the time Nocturne can play the game, then it's a little bit too late and it's hard to play. Additionally, like the side laners on UOT were pretty safe and not that easy to kill. They had opportunities, so maybe something weird like a Zac or something, like that we know Ethot or Pulp could have played. Maybe it's like a Camille jungle, maybe it's a Xin Zhao. Whatever it may be that works for them is where they should go, where they can just have a little bit more early agency. I understand the team fighting thing and what they were going for, and it does tend to work out, but we can't have as many micro mistakes in the early game if that's the style that we're going to play.
Yeah, and kind of bouncing off that idea, it's important to realize that if you're going to play for later game team fights and you're going to play to scale, that works when you have like a comfortable team identity, communication structure set up, who's going to be doing what, you have a good idea of what your team composition is aiming to do. But when there's a lot of, like lack of coordination between the team with the role swaps and the things that have happened with Boise State, I want to see them just bring the fight early, pick early game champions that are able to mix things up in the early game, because it's one of those cases that we've been talking about where if the late game fights are more even, then Boise State can easily win. Well, then how do they not fall behind in the early game? They have to be able to match the tempo, they have to be able to match the aggression, and finally get some plays going in their favor earlier than like 10, 15, 20 minutes into the game.
That was a beautiful Ashe arrow with that mid fight that landed right on Caitlyn. And when you are able to hit that with the Nocturne ult, the Galio ult, then the Caitlyn still gets out, and it's not quite ideal. So more early game. That's the consensus from the Gigabrand analysts that I have on my desk. But now it's time to go to the Chads that are casting, that bring all the vocals, bring all the energy as we dive into this game 2. You're going to see if Boise State and the Broncos can buck themselves back up on the saddle and come back in this one. Let's see if that's able to happen. We got Mad Magical and Chilling Walk taking you through all the action. Guys, take it away.